Good morning to you. It is Wednesday, September 17th, and of course it is Wednesday. Brian Wilson, just so you know, Wednesdays at 7, one of my favorite segments of the week.
I'm glad to hear that.
Because I get to talk to you, and I get to ask you, Brian, so a lot of people talking about furries these days and how it relates. Now, I know that you, intrepid reporter Brian Wilson, you know all about furries, don't you?
Well, yes, and in fact, I am a furry. I just want to go ahead and get that out there. I have a fursona.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
It's that of a French bulldog. I lay around the house and sleep all day and chew up things that I find on the floor.
Okay, now, since you're a bulldog, that doesn't mean that you have the litter box. No. You go outside.
Isn't that the most ridiculous thing, this whole idea?
It is. Because people real quick, Brian, are asking, what is a furry? And a furry is basically a grown-a adult who puts on an animal costume. Right. And has some sort of weird proclivity towards that. Yeah. So that's what furries are, just so people know. That's very
troubling.
To me, mentally ill, but whatever. So that is part of this whole conversation because a week after the death of Charlie Kirk, we are finding out more about the suspect and his proclivities. And, you know, we've all been talking about the Antifa angle, the furry angle. Of course, the boyfriend of the suspect is a furry, I guess, and, obviously transgender, all that other kind of stuff. So I'm just going to let you, it's been a week.
Well, let me just say a few things. You know, when this thing broke, I actually came to my studio and was there to assist Matt Murphy in the afternoons when we were just getting the information, and I sort of helped him out a little bit, and when I'm in that mode of a breaking news story, head down, just the facts, ma'am, my Jack Webb sort of mode that I go into, and I always have the emotional reaction on big stories like a day later.
Yeah.
And so, when my head was down and I was just trying to, get through and get the best information and help Matt get the best information we could on the air, I really wasn't thinking so much about the emotional side of this. But it hit me like the next day when I had time to sort of wind down from all of that. And I'm pissed off, and I can't get over being pissed off. This angers me. And what angers me is how the Democrats were doing everything they can to stir up and foment the waters and to cause all this, this consternation, and to accuse us, those of us who might have a different opinion of them, to be conservative, if conservative opinion that's different than theirs. Well, it can't be anything that's less than being a Nazi. You're a Nazi, you're a Hitler, and I'm tired of that kind of stuff being said. It does roil up certain people who are just weak individuals to carry out things like this, and they are responsible for this, and it angers me. It angers me that they have stirred up the water such that there are people now who are willing to carry out, who completely believe this line of BS that they lay down.
Well, and here's the thing, Brian, I know that you've been watching like we all have, that not only, and the audio's out there, and I played, I think it was yesterday, there's all that audio of the left calling for violence, put a bullet in him, and all of those other things, putting a bullet in Trump or whoever it was. And they've been calling for this. The left always likes to talk about dog whistles, right?
Right.
So they've been dog whistling really loud and coming out and saying that they want and expect violence. And so here we go. And then, of course, Brian, as you know, there's all of the people that are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk.
I know. That's just the worst, isn't it? And they can't even understand. There's an old saying, as long as I was in journalism, is don't speak ill of the dead, first of all. But there's not much that you can say that's bad about Charlie Kirk. He was a good guy. He was a really good guy, and all they're trying to do is to tarnish his reputation. The big thing that I'm worried about right now with Charlie Kirk, and I'm sort of looking forward a little bit. I don't think we're there yet, but I think it will happen. I mean, one of the things that he wanted to do was go to college campuses, and he wanted to speak to young people, and he was doing it, and he was so effective in the last election. I think that's one of the reasons why he was targeted. He was good at what he did. You can make the case that Charlie Kirk is responsible for Donald Trump's second term.
Yep.
And you wouldn't be far off. I think that's right. He was able to turn around a lot of young, especially male voters, and give them, the information that they weren't receiving. He was countering years and years and years of indoctrination that the left has tried to foist upon people who are in universities. And he was having an effect, and they hate it. That he was able to take something that they had worked on for so long and turn it around in one relatively short period of time and bring people, back to conservatism in a big way. And I think that's why, quite frankly, he's no longer with us. He was effective. He was truly effective. And all of this nonsense about, he was an evil guy. I'm not going to stand for it. I'm not going to broker that conversation because he wasn't. He was a good guy. He was a man who wanted to engage in one of the more noble things we do in America, which was political discourse. What's wrong with that? Can we get back to the point where we can talk about ideas and have differences of opinion without it resulting in violence?
Well, one of the things is, the investigation is ongoing. So now they're talking about how he was involved in this relationship with a boyfriend, furry. They're looking at some of these organizations like Antifa, some of these other kind of organizations, these trans organizations. They're militant trans. I was talking about this in the previous segment. And it's not only in Salt Lake City. I mean, these militant trans organizations are across the country. I guess there's some here in the state of Tennessee as well. So there is a lot more to this story than just, a guy goes crazy and decides to take out Charlie Kirk. There is a lot more to this. There's a lot of layers to this story. And, of course, we've all been talking about this. I know that you've been on this as well. And so the investigation will continue. One of the things I've got Matthew Hurtt coming up. I'm going to ask him this same question. I don't like to necessarily talk about politics, but in this storyline. But one of the things that I've noticed is that there are young Americans, rational Americans, who are posting their own videos on TikTok, and they're basically saying, I can't believe the abhorrent behavior, the vile behavior of people on the left, my party. They'll say, I've always identified as a Democrat, but I'm seeing what they're doing and what they stand for and celebrating this death, and they're moving to, the right or at the very least the center, and they're posting about it on the socials. I'm going to ask you if you believe that this will have a bigger impact. Talk about, and somebody on the super text line said, not all Democrats. Okay, fine. I would like to see then the Democrats have an uprising of their own and calling out the people who are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. So,
I would love to see that too.
Yeah, I would like to see that.
And you see a few of them out there. Mm-hmm. I mean, Fetterman and has been out there saying some things.
Yep.
But not many other people.
No. Now, let me ask you this, because, again, we are seeing people leave the Democrat Party. Yep. Just say, I'm not going to condemn this. I'm just going to leave.
This may backfire on them in such a big way that they can't bring themselves in this moment where, people are touched by this, and they look at this and they say, this is tragic. And there are a lot of people out there who are, maybe they're Democrats, maybe they're just not all that political, but who look at this and they go, this was wrong. This guy wasn't doing anything wrong, and this is a tragedy, and they've seen his poor widow, and they're worried about his family. And I wonder if it's not a turning point, to use a phrase, of America right now, that this could be a real a changing moment. And I think that the Democrats are going to rue the day that they couldn't just walk in and say, we condemn this was wrong, and we're not for this.
That's all they had to do, man. That's all they had to do.
Yeah.
And here's the problem, though. So there's two things right now. Number one is the video of those Democrats, those lawmakers, and those people commenting on not only social media but on MSNBC and so
we'll
forth.
See them again.
Those
we'll
videos.
See them again during the re-election effort. I promise you.
Exactly. Yeah. Those videos are not going away where they were essentially calling for violence. But what also is not going away is all the Charlie Kirk videos. There's thousands of them, Brian. And so the day that he was killed, one of the things that I posted on the socials and I've been advocating for is find your favorite Charlie Kirk video and share it, post it, do whatever you need to do so that those videos and his message don't die. And there's a lot of people, Brian, who are discovering Charlie Kirk for the first time.
Yeah. They may have been generally aware of him, but now they're really focused on him in a bigger way. And when you focus on the things that he said, there was perhaps not a conservative alive who had a better mind than Charlie Kirk. He had this unbelievable mind and the ability to retain information and to go out and forcefully talk about the conservatism and his faith and the nexus between the two. And he was so good that I think people who are just now learning about Charlie Kirk are going to go back and look at some of these clips, and we've seen them all on television in recent days. And I think they're going to have a very positive opinion about the guy. I think as Charlie Kirk would say, put our ideas out there and the best ideas will win, and we have great ideas, and that's true.
Well, and here's the other thing, and I played a video on this yesterday where you've got some kid who's 19 years old, and he has been hearing for years that Charlie Kirk is a racist and all of these other things, and then he's looking at the videos and he's like, they've been lying to me. They've been lying to me.
Yeah, there's a new poll out there that says that 15% of registered voters believe that Kirk's death was good for America. That's just scary.
That is horrifying. That is horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. Then you have Brian. I want to play this for you. This is guy's name is Matt Guzman or Guzman.
Gutman. I think it is, yeah.
And what he's trying to do is he's trying to paint this whole thing as kind of a love story between the suspect and his boyfriend. Listen to this.
We have seen an alleged murder with such specific text messages about the alleged murder weapon, where it was hidden, how it was placed, what was on it, but also it was very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect. A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and the suspect himself, with him repeatedly calling his roommate who was transitioning calling him my love, and I want to protect you, my love. So it was this duality of someone who the attorney said not only jeopardized the life of Charlie Kirk and the crowd, but was doing it in front of children, which is one of the aggravating circumstances of this case. And on the other hand, he was, speaking so lovingly about his partner. So a very interesting and, as Pierre said, riveting press conference, David.
It was.
You know, what I understand, Brian, is that the Hallmark Channel is now making a love story out of theirs.
No.
I'm kidding.
Gosh.
But I'm telling you,
Sorry, John.
This guy, what in the world? And look, and to some degree, when you're in the middle of a situation and information is coming to you and you're trying to process it in real time and you're winging it, sometimes you say things that were stupid. But he doubled down on it. He went way, way further than you needed to. And it seemed to be almost sympathetic to this shooter.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, well, that's at the network
tells you
level.
Everything
That's
you need to know about mainstream media.
Yeah,
right
that's
now.
not like some small market. I mean, that is.
Yeah.
All right.
This guy's been around. He knows the drill, and that he chose to go that direction is shocking and puzzling. Why would you do that? I have a hard time struggling to understand why you would make that the take that you walked away with after listening to all that you just listened to.
Jerry of Ben and Jerry's has resigned. I didn't know this, Brian, so tell us the story.
Well, Ben and Jerry, the ice cream company, got bought out years ago by Unilever, and they said, "Don't worry, we're going to take over, but Ben and Jerry will still be connected to it, and Ben and Jerry are still going to be Ben and Jerry, and they're still going to do the things that Ben and Jerry do." And of course, they're very liberal, and they take on every liberal cause. business. Well, now apparently Unilever is telling them that they can't do certain things, and it has to do with Israel and their position on Israel. You can't do certain things because it's not going to be good for business, and Jerry has quit. He said, I have to walk away. Well, that's fine with me, but isn't it interesting that even in the world of ice cream, this is becoming a thing where people are finding that the situation is so divisive that they have to walk away. But you know what? This is what's happening with a lot of corporations. They're reassessing the things that and the positions they've held in the past and the DEI and all of that. And I think it's a good thing. And I'm real sorry that Jerry decides he has to go leave.
What a shame.
Maybe he just gets some chunky monkey and sit down, and he'll feel better after that.
All right, very good. Brian Wilson, 722 on Nashville's Morning News. We've got like 30 seconds. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on real quick?
Yeah, well, only that I just did a 7th district debate the other night on Monday night, and there were 7 of the, I think, 11 Republicans. Whoever gets the Republican nomination, very likely, of course, to be the next congressperson. They're very interesting. There's some good people running, and it was great to work with the Williamson County GOP to put that together, and had a great time. And I think we've got some great people running.
Yeah,
that's the one thing I'm really excited about. There's a lot of people running, but there's some really good candidates amid all that.
All right, Brian, always great to talk, and we'll catch up with you again next Wednesday at the same time or as news happens. Always great to catch up with.
I'm going to go back to being a fursona bulldog.
Sure, you go a fursona. Very good, Brian. A fursona
Take
of
on
bulldog.
My fursona, yes.
They put that on a hashtag.
All right, Dan.
See ya. 723 Nashville's Morning News. Did you hear that, Joan?
He did not adequately define a furry.
Oh, did you look it up?
Well,
listen, you brought it up. You're calling out Brian as not adequately defining a furry. So
can we,
Joan,
go
the floor
back
is yours.
Is there a recording of his description?
I'm sure there is, but we don't have.
There will be
all that. There will be.
A furry is a person who enjoys the concept of anthropomorphic animals with human characteristics, and who identify as part of the furry fandom community.
That was what, Joan?
Anthropomorphic.
Anthropomorphic.
Mm-hmm.
Anthropomorphic. Courtesy of Brian Wilson, who's still listening.
Can I tell you the guy that Elmer Fudd's everything? I'm not even going to try that. Matthew Hurtt, a grassroots political analyst, is joining us. Matthew, I know that you were in town last weekend, assuming you are back in Washington, D.C. at this point, in Virginia?
Back in Washington, D.C., Dan, following the news of obviously all of the fallout of the Charlie Kirk assassination last week, but back at the helm at Leadership Institute, helping people get jobs in conservative public policy, which is exactly one of the things Charlie Kirk worked on at Turning Point USA.
Well, and absolutely, and you and I have spoken about this many times, and I do want to remind folks, and you had a great interview, an appearance with Matt Murphy last week, talking about just this. What did Charlie Kirk stand for? I mean, I think you spoke to us the day after his assassination, right? That you worked alongside of him, you knew him, and part of what you do, a big part of what you do, is try to find the future conservative leaders of America, which I think is a great deal of what Charlie Kirk was doing as well.
You know, one of the coolest things, Dan, is when Charlie Kirk was 18 years old, he came to Leadership Institute in Arlington, Virginia, and spent an entire day with our founder and president, Morton Blackwell, learning how to start a nationwide youth organization. And from its inception, from its very first chapter, all the way to AmFest and everything they do on campuses today, Leadership Institute works hand in hand with them. We just issued a statement last week saying that we are standing side by side with our friends and family at Turning Point. And I have received on X just a ton of DMs of people who are now familiar with Turning Point, and they want to know how to get plugged in. And that is so cool to see. Even over the weekend, my sister, who lives in Murfreesboro, who's not especially political, she said, I reached out to Turning Point to get more involved. So in this tragedy, we have a tremendous opportunity to continue a movement and to honor Charlie in a way that allows people to share their faith and their commitment to America's greatness.
There's so many things to talk about with Charlie Kirk, and I think that this is one of those moments where you talk about the assassination. I've been covering the investigation all morning long, and we've got to look at this, and we've got to hold the person accountable. We also have to look ahead. We've got to look forward, which is part of what you do in trying to find those future leaders of America. I think that when you start to look at all that led up to all of this, I think that there's a number of things that, and I just mentioned this with Brian Wilson in the previous segment, is you've got all of the dog whistling for violence from the left. Those videos are not going to go away. We have, of course, the celebration that we've seen as well. And I've played a number of different videos of people, and I've seen a bunch where they've literally left the Democrat Party. They've left the party because of that abhorrent behavior. And I think that at the end of the day, we are going to see a lot more people that are red-pilled, that realize really what the Democrat Party these days seems to stand for. And I do understand not all Democrats are out there celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. But what I'm not noticing is a wave of condemnation from that side of the aisle on those people that are celebrating his assassination.
You know, I don't think it's a majority of Democrats, but we do have numbers that we can look at, and Brian Wilson mentioned it in the last segment. According to YouGov, 24% of very liberal respondents said it is acceptable for people to cheer on a political opponent's death. 24%. As compared to only 7% of 3% of very conservative. And on liberal, it is 10%. So 10%. 1 in 10 liberals say it's okay to be happy about a public figure's death, whereas only 4% of conservatives. It is not a both sides issue. Greg Gutfeld had an excellent takedown earlier this week of that silly argument. But we do have some numbers to back it up. And I think, you know, it is unfortunate that is the dichotomy, the diversion from conservatives who largely don't cheer on the death of political opponents to liberals who at a rate 6 times higher do. There is a silver lining, though. I did have an hour-long conversation on Monday night with somebody that I was vehemently opposed to at Middle Tennessee State University. He was a labor organizer, a socialist, a member of Students for a Democratic Society. He and I have kept in touch over the years. And he called me. He said he watched Erica Kirk's comments over the weekend with his wife, and he just collapsed in tears, seeing that Charlie had been assassinated for his political views, for literally going on to college campuses and letting people speak to him. So I'm cautiously optimistic that this reaction from the left is going to cause, overwhelmingly from the left, is going to cause a greater reaction from decent Americans who don't always think about politics.
Absolutely. And let's also not forget not to, keep piling on here. But remember that thing out of, I think, was it Rutgers University, where the preponderance of Democrats seemed to be okay with assassination culture. Remember, talked about assassinating Elon Musk, assassinating Donald Trump as well. I mean, that reverberated with me, and I've been talking about that for the last couple of days because it does remind me, Matthew Hurtt, just of that mindset. Moving on to go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Those numbers are insane as well. The justification for murder of Elon Musk and Donald Trump, left of center respondents, 50% for Elon Musk and 56% for Donald Trump. And so it is this preponderance of assassination culture and then making it okay by celebrating it on college campuses, by celebrating it on social media. It then makes it more palatable for more people. Once you've affirmed a viewpoint and you've made it popular, then the people who start tuning in later begin to adopt that viewpoint. It's absolutely outrageous.
All right, so apparently Trump is in Britain. What's he doing overseas?
It's a second state visit, unprecedented second state visit. I am not sure what all is being discussed over there, but of course we saw over the weekend protests both from conservatives, and they chanted Charlie, and also leftists. There seemed to be something going on in the culture in Britain as well.
Oh, there's a lot going on with the culture in Britain, and you've got all the issues there in the UK with the immigration, the illegal immigration, whatever you want to call it over there, that really has transformed the United Kingdom. I mean, we can talk about the failure, the refusal of these Muslims, all these rampant Muslims' refusal to assimilate. And basically, part of what they've been doing is they've been telling people that live in the UK, you will bend to our rules for society. So, yeah, that is a whole big conversation. One of the things I thought was interesting, and this came out last night, I guess, is President Trump has now announced that the Republicans will have a sort of a convention, if you will, heading into the midterm elections, as opposed to just doing it during the presidential election. He says now they're going to have a big convention to get some excitement going into the midterm elections. And I think there's a lot of excitement right now with the Republican Party. But what do you think about that?
You know, this is a pretty exciting thing. We have not seen this from either major political party. Decades ago, 100 years ago, a lot of political party activity was conducted at conventions, state conventions, and national conventions. This is an opportunity. If you are looking for ways to engage the grassroots, to engage the people who make these elections happen, who go out and knock on doors and who support candidates in their neighborhoods and communities, this is a really cool way to do it. And it is classic Donald Trump, a big production, a big show, and I think that will resonate with rank and file grassroots Republican volunteers, the people who actually drive the party. And the party isn't, you see ads on TV, there are millions of dollars raised, but the people who actually connect with voters are those grassroots activists, many of them listening to a station like this, who would be very enthused and excited about an opportunity to participate in something like this.
I got to tell you, we have the special election, the 7th congressional district, and we have at least 4 really, really good candidates. I would be happy with any of the top 4 that are out there. We have a definite bench. A Republican Party, whether it is local here in Middle Tennessee and Tennessee or at the national level, we absolutely have a bench, and I think that we have some great times ahead for the Republican Party. Conversely, I guess, though, part of the question that I would have is the economy. You can spin the economy any way you want. You can talk about the stock market. You can talk about consumer confidence. You can talk about spending. You can talk about inflation. A lot of different ways to spin the economy. I know that you have not been a fan of tariffs. We're seeing a lot of money via tariffs coming into our economy. And you can talk about the job rate as well. All of those things is up for discussion. But, as it relates to the midterm elections, based on what we know right now, and granted, we got a long ways away before the midterm elections, but where the economy is right now, what do you think it will have as far as an impact on the midterms?
I think I'm looking at the cost of the price of eggs. Again, most voters are thinking about this with their own bank accounts as they plan out the family budget at the kitchen table, as they go to the grocery store, as they make the mortgage, as they consider buying a car or spending. We've got the Christmas season is coming up, and people will start to spend on gifts and other things, and so that is where it's going to hit most voters. Most voters are not ideologues; they're not outright partisans, and they're thinking about this through the lens of their own family budget. And things seem to be going pretty well. I mean, I looked at I've got a minimal investment through Robinhood, and of course, this is not investment advice, but the things that I've invested in seem to be doing pretty well. And I think that those are the decisions. Again, any of that can turn on a dime. We did see the price of eggs dropped it was at its peak in February. So that was 6-7 months ago, and it's dropped now to back down to 2020, 2021 prices. And so anything can happen in 6 months and 8 months and 9 months. But right now, I think we're in a good place. And I also think the things that are happening at the cultural level, again, this tragedy with Charlie Kirk it is a horrible thing, but to have millions more Americans going to church, to have people reaching out and being interested in starting Turning Point chapters, to have people thinking about these things through the lens of what it means to be a decent American is going to pan out pretty well for conservatives and for Republicans.
Let me ask you, so I'm debating whether or not I want to go down the road of Candace Owens. In case you don't know, and people who listen to me know that I struggle with Candace because I used to be a big fan of hers. But there is the broiling massive controversy online about Candace Owens, and she is coming out now. She is being really critical of Israel, stopping short of accusing Israel of taking out Charlie Kirk, but she's going after Israel for putting a lot of pressure on Charlie Kirk, and this whole concept that she is really blasting Israel, blasting Benjamin Netanyahu after the death of Charlie Kirk. And there's a lot of things that she's saying about Charlie Kirk's inner circle. And Charlie Kirk's inner circle, what she's saying about this whole situation, Charlie's inner circle, including his producer, is saying that none of these things that Candace Owens is saying about, Israel putting pressure on Charlie Kirk and, pulling donations and all of these things is untrue. And so I guess my question is, I don't know, how much do you put into the credibility of Candace Owens at this point?
Well, I mean, if you look at Candace Owens' record, she's had an axe to grind against Israel for a while, and it seems Tucker Carlson is in on that right now as well. Bill Ackman, who is seen as pro-Israel, held a fundraising event in the Hamptons some time ago with Charlie, and he has released a couple of statements on X, basically saying that all of the attendees are welcome to talk about what was talked about there. I've seen that in the narrative. Charlie Kirk's pastor, though, issued a statement over the weekend or in the last couple of days and said, Charlie never said an untoward word about Candace, even though he disagreed with her from time to time, and tried to redirect focus on the assassination of Charlie and what to do in the wake of that. And I think that is the prudent place to go. I think federal investigation will take place in Utah. I do think the text messages seem like they probably had a conversation about what to text back and forth before the text messages took place to kind of deflect from the furry who was the roommate. Right. And but I think that we should be focused. What can we do about this? What can your listeners do about it? We can go out and embody the message of Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk by engaging our neighbors and being proud Americans. And that's what I'm focused on now.
Yeah, I did a whole. So here's my conundrum, right? I did a whole thing at 2:00 in the morning on the Candace Owens accusations against Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, and all of the pressure that was placed on Charlie Kirk and the pulling of donations and all of these things. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, okay, this is a woman who was accusing Emmanuel Macron's wife of being a dude. So do I really want to go down this road? I don't know. I feel like my airtime is pretty valuable. So I don't know if I should go down that road or not. So anyway, Matthew Hurtt, we got about 30 seconds. Anything else that I should that you want to say as far as this segment goes?
I think it is up to us to be out and to make the case for America's greatness. There is a special election in Tennessee 7. I was up in Tennessee 7 over the weekend handling some family matters, and I saw signs all over the place. Your listeners have an outsized ability to make an impact, to make this country a better place, and we have to do it. We do it by going to church. We do it by engaging with our neighbors. We do it by getting involved in the political process and by being decent human beings, and I think that's what we should all go out and do.
All right. Thank you very much, Matthew. How can people find you on Twitter?
I'm on Twitter or X at Matthew Hurtt, MattheWHurtt.
All right, 7:54 at Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. I don't know, Joan and Sam, should I go ahead and do my segment on Candace Owens? Like, what do you folks think? Should I go ahead and do that, or should I do something else?
I think if for no other reason, Dan, a lot of people hear about what Candace Owens is saying or
so maybe
how she's framing it. But what you could do is kind of give the context. help us all understand
All right, so
what it is
explain
and
it.
where she's coming from.
All right, so I'll explain it because I've got all this audio and everything. I worked really hard on the segment, so I don't. So without giving it any kind of credibility or whatever, because here's the deal, is that some of the stuff that she's saying is true. Some of the stuff that she is saying is true. And so people are saying online that she is trying to implicate Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel in this horrible thing that happened. I don't believe that that's what she's doing. I think that a number of different things can be true. So, all right, I'll go ahead and I'll do the segment coming up at in the 8 o'clock hour.